We'll call the Town Plan and Zoning Commission meeting of May 8th to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Secretary, please read the roll.
Chairman Aida.
Here.
Commissioner Canillo.
Here.
Commissioner Claffey.
Here.
Commissioner Fox.
Here.
Commissioner Payne.
Here.
Commissioner Yeski.
Here.
Commissioner Woods.
Here.
Commissioner Vitalica. Commissioner Graverman.
Here.
Commissioner Jangrave.
Okay, we have a full complement of commissioners here. Mr. Planner, the approval of the agenda, you have a change you want to make?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I recommend moving item 8C, POCD update, up to just after item 5, public participation.
Any questions on that? We don't need the consultant sitting all the way through the meeting. Take it up earlier. Okay. Approval of minutes of April 24th.
So moved. Second.
Motion made and second. Any corrections, additions? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's good. Public participation. Anyone here from the public wishing to speak at this time? There'll be another opportunity at the end of the meeting for public participation. Zoning Enforcement Officers report.
Oh, I thought we were going to do the POCD.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Bring the consultant up on the, give us enough information on where we are.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. I was here a month ago. In the past month, we've completed the agreement with the town, so everything's all executed there, insurance and all the other requirements. As a result of that delay, I haven't had a chance to dig into the work yet, if you will, in terms of the plan. So our meeting at the end of May, I think, is probably we're going to pass that over and head to June. We had originally talked about June 24th as being the date for our public informational meeting. I understand the commission had some questions at your last meeting, and I asked Craig if I could be here tonight, just again to sort of review the scope, the process, if you will, for the public meeting, so that we can move ahead. The summer months are a difficult time to do a public meeting, so I'd like to try to get it in June if we can. But more than anything else, I want to make sure that with the commission we have a good understanding of how the process will unfold. So I'm here tonight and happy to answer any questions, go through the scope of work with you again as we did last month. What's the commission's pleasure?
But could I jump in for a second? The commission asked me recently to take advantage of the tax mailing, so I've been talking with our tax collector about that. The tax mailing, unfortunately, is going out on June 28th, which would be 2 days after we've tentatively scheduled having the public information meeting. I'm still collecting information on how much it would cost and what the procedure is to use the tax mailing. But if we decide to go that route, obviously the date of the event would have to be other than June 26th.
Normally, how would, to get people to participate, how would you propose we get people here?
I think there's a number of methods that we like to use. The town has social media accounts, so we'll use those. We'll do typical press releases. We put posters up around town buildings and start to create buzz of information around town. It's difficult sometimes these days to get people to come to meetings because there's a lot of things on their agenda. One of the things we've had some success in doing is just putting up signs around town. And we do these about a month in advance of the meeting, and we take them down the night of the meeting. The whole idea is that people see a poster or a press release or a story or something on social media, they tend to forget it fairly quickly, but signs are a way that we've had some good fortune. Realize it's a sensitive subject, which is why I wanted to bring the signs so you could actually see them. A number of other towns, I'd say dozens of towns, have done this. So it's a very effective way. I would say it easily doubles, maybe even triples participation at the meeting. The first sign that goes up is "Plan like your kids will live here." Many people have made a decision to live in Newington. They love the community. And planning to them is not really a hands-on thing. But when you talk about making a community for their kids or grandkids, people start to come alive and get more interested in what's going on. And this is actually a challenge for people, which is they say, I'm sure you're not going to make it the most fun I've ever had at a public meeting. And the exercises that we do in fact make it fun, informative, and interesting. So I think that the mailer goes to every household in town. My hope is that they'll keep that piece of paper and put it in their calendar and go ahead. In the absence of that, I would ask your blessing or permission, if you will, to go the sign route, because I think it can be very effective. So I realize signs are, again, a sensitive issue in community, so I don't want to upset any apple carts. But if public participation at this early meeting is a great way to learn about the issues that Newington residents feel are important, and to get them at this meeting and get them a chance to talk about this stuff and pull out of them allows us to take the 2010 plan and really refine it based on the issues the community is concerned about. So I'd like to start off with a bang with that meeting, and June, July, whatever the commission feels is the right way to go, is how Craig and I will configure this project.
Well, I think we should take advantage of the tax bill. It's something that we discussed the last time we had the 2020 plan. And as far as the signs are concerned, I would think that we would be able to relax it for our own use. I mean, particularly because when the Park and Rec came in and told us that they were putting signs up for their event, because if it's a town function, a town item, as long as we put them up and get them up and down in a reasonable amount of time.
I take responsibility for the signs, Mr. Chairman, so I'll put them up and take them down.
Chairman Ayed, have you thought about the two town billboards we have in town? You know, the one in the center of town and one by the,
Yeah, we would.
maybe we could put those up on a, I don't know, week before basis or something? I'm just asking a question, I don't know.
We aware of it now. Where would you put the what are those are lawn signs, right?
Correct.
How do you get the people to the places to put them?
I think we drive around town and look at prominent intersections where traffic flow, where people are likely to kind of go through. We find places which are not in people's front yards. They feel sort of communal space. So this could be space in front of a school or another town facility. It could be space which is in front of woods or a forest. But again, places for people to see them, because you know, my wife used to be in marketing. She said you have to see a message 7 times before it sinks in. And I think after a while, or maybe that's just when she's talking to me, she has to tell me something 7 times before I pick up on it. But the whole idea, I think, with the signage is that after a while, people, they can't ignore it anymore, and they're interested now in the sign, and they hopefully will make the commitment to come to the meeting. So,
Steve?
I was going to ask how many signs you think it would take, but I think it's actually a good idea if they're strategically located, and you take, at the end of Garfield Street here on Willard Avenue, so there's a tremendous amount of traffic coming in and out of this building. We have our fire departments, scattered across town. There's 4 different fire departments. We could take advantage of that. The schools, so there's a lot of people coming in and out of the schools on a regular basis, if the school allows us to do it. Because you get the signs in the right places, and then because social media is going to pick up on it.
Yes.
Whether it's one associated with the town or just somebody living in the town, and then if they could pick up on it, it'll be a good thing, because then you're not only going to get it on the lawn in those few places, they're going to take a picture of it, and it's going to get blasted out to the 3, 4, 5, 6,000, whatever they have for readership. So I think it's a good idea, because we want to do everything we can to make sure that we can say here that we got the message out. Don't tell us that we didn't.
Yep.
And we're willing to. We want to listen to you. We want to hear you. We need your input. It's your community. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Dominic?
I agree with the signs are okay, but I agree with the chairman that I think that we should have some sort of notice in the tax bill. And if that comes out on June 28th, I'm not sure, I guess, maybe early part of July, I guess, or, I'm not sure when you would have it, but then it would be the summer, and you're only going to, this won't be the only public hearing.
No.
So even though it's a summer, it's not going to be the only public hearing.
The
And I'm
last-
wondering, in the notice that we send out at the tax bill, is it possible that we could give some sort of schedule so they'll know about all the public hearings that we're talking about through the process?
Yes, I got some prices from the mailing company that the town uses. The cheapest way to do it, well, actually, there are a couple of decisions that I need you to make for me. The cheapest mailer, it would be on a third of a piece of paper. That's the cheapest. The more expensive, obviously, would be a full 8.5 by 11, color, double-sided. We can go as crazy as we want. So,
I was thinking only a small little insert.
flip, that's kind of what I was
Just-
thinking about.
Yeah,
too.
so
Yeah.
you could get probably 4 to a page, and then they cut them, and then we already have the envelopes from the tax bill, so it's just a matter of inserting.
Yeah, they do that.
and
That's all
they-
part of the charge.
Yeah.
And it'll be an additional charge for us. It'll be, depending on what size we want to go with, between $600-700 additional charge, but it's probably
it's-
money well spent.
I think so, yes.
If I may, Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
We had talked at our prior meeting about using the fourth Wednesday of the month as being our normal meeting date. I would think that July is sort of the middle of the summertime. I agree with Mr. Payne that could be a challenge, but nowadays, school's starting earlier, so the end of August, the fourth Wednesday in August is probably an okay date.
Okay.
And in fact, right after that is when we start to kick into the listening sessions. So I can be preparing material in the background. We can do that big public meeting at the end of August, if you will, and then roll into our regular schedule of stuff in the fall.
Anthony?
First day of school is the 28th of August. That's the fourth Wednesday also.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
We talked about the fourth, our meetings on the fourth Wednesday, that we didn't think it was fair to applicants to have the entire meeting towards the plan of development. So we're going to do some business activities, I believe, and then allocate a time period for the 2020 plan. I
Understood.
think that's what we talked about, isn't it, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, and I think the commission agreed that we're not going to skip a meeting if there's business to take.
If on this one night of the public meeting, if we could adjust that so that the meeting is very participatory, it's very active, it's not really a sit-down commission meeting type of approach. And so it might be a bit of a challenge unless we're there and we get together, the meeting starts at 7 or 7:30 and the commission does some business before that, whatever.
Maybe
you think
that
is best.
one meeting shouldn't be the same night as the TPZ meetings.
Gotcha, that's a good
Maybe
point.
that should just be a separate night for the very first time, because it sounds like you want to engage the public a lot.
Understood, that's actually a good recommendation.
Okay, Craig, you'll
Okay.
come up with a date in that area that we was talking about near the end of August as the meeting date.
Yep.
And let's make a decision on that so that we could get the printing done and
Okay,
everything.
and I need to get the information to the printer by May 28th. So I'd like you to decide tonight. Well, maybe I could just talk to the chairman, but it sounds like the consensus is late August. Okay, and then I'll just work with the chairman to nail down the actual date.
That good with you guys?
Yeah, I think late August is good.
Okay,
And I think, Craig, I'll have the mailer together, a rough draft, if you will, so the commission can see it at your next meeting, which is May 22. And then if there's any adjustments, et cetera, we'll be done well in time to make
Okay.
sure we hit that mailer, et cetera. So I think it sounds like the formation of a plan that I think works well.
Steve?
Again, I have no issues either if the chairman and the planner go over that mailer and, decide on what it is and it goes in the packet, just to expedite it so we make sure we can get it done in time.
Is that all right with the commission? Or do you want to see it?
No, I'll leave,
You want to see it, you could see it.
no, I think the chairman and the planner could cover that. Does, Glenn, do you have a problem with giving some sort of schedule?
Oh, absolutely not. I
On
was
that?
thinking on the back side. On the front side would be sort of something attention grabbing, if you will, to try to get people, because when a tax bill comes, you don't want them to throw away the other piece of paper. So some way to let them know what's going on, and maybe even tease a little bit with the signs, et cetera, so it'll tie into all of that. And then I think on the back side of that piece of paper, is a sense of the schedule, the milestones, so that even if end of August doesn't work for everybody, there will be other times in the process, so.
Now, I need one more piece of guidance from you. The tax bills, the motor vehicle and real estate bills go in the same envelope, obviously. Last year, there were 22,000 of them. So I talked to Corinne about this, and I asked her, well, how many people only got motor vehicle bills? And the answer was some 16,000. So I'm going to suggest you think about sending the notice only to people who get motor vehicle tax bills, because that's still going to be a pretty wide distribution, and it will save, a fair amount of money. But it's,
Why not
And
why not the other way around, just the houses?
Send a tax bill.
I'll ask the mailing company how fine they can slice and dice who would get the slip of paper, which envelope would get one and which one wouldn't. But so what you're saying is so that each household gets one?
Yeah, because if you put it in the tax bills for the cars, what do we get them all in one envelope?
Yeah.
I don't even.
Well,
Each
if you
separate
get two, they
envelope, 'cause
come,
I'll get
if you get two,
7.
they come in one envelope. But like I said, last year there were 22,000 envelopes that got mailed out.
Yeah.
And
Multiple.
I was just thinking, but if we only mail a notice to someone who has a car, which is pretty much everybody in Newington, then that might be sufficient. And that would save by about a third of the expense.
Steve?
I pay my taxes directly to the town, so not through a mortgage company. If you are paying them through a mortgage company, doesn't that tax bill go to the mortgage company? It
Yes.
doesn't go, yeah, so.
Right.
I think you're right. It makes more sense to send it to.
Motor
people with
vehicle,
Yeah, you're
Because
going
most
to
people
get
are
a
gonna-
bigger
Most people
audience.
tied to the mortgage, they're not going to see it.
I don't see it.
Right.
Yeah, right.
I don't see it.
So,
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay. Anything else, Craig, that you need?
No.
You all set?
I am, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. and,
Okay, great.
Look forward to working with you.
Okay. Zoning Enforcement Officer's report.
Good evening, everyone. I do not have any new temporary sign applications to present before you tonight. I did have one renewal that was approved this month for Mortensen Ice Cream at 3145 Berlin Turnpike. And with that, was there any questions on the April 2019 ZEO report?
Yeah, I have a few, Chairman, may I?
Yes, you could, go ahead.
Let me go through them. You answered my question on the Mortensons. I saw that it was out today. The next one down on McBride Plaza, that's specific to McBride Carpet and not a tenant, because we've had violations. in it.
Correct, yeah, and I put McBride Carpet
Just
on there.
wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
3455 Berlin Turnpike, page 3. The banners, I went by yesterday, the banner's still out there? Last time you went out was on the 18th?
They were taking it down.
It's still there.
It is there?
Yeah, it was there
Okay, I
today.
saw a guy up there and he had taken it down. He was replacing the sign face. So I will
Check it out.
look into that. Yes.
3475 Stu Leonard's on page 4. Last year, they came in before us for their 2 signs, and we denied it, so they know of the regulations, and now they're automatically violating them, knowing of them. Is there any, does that just start over again, Craig, or? We had a lengthy discussion with them here at a meeting last spring over it, because they were trying to
They agreed
differentiate.
they were going to put it inside.
In just the center one, they wanted 3 signs. They wanted one at each of their entrances.
Right.
So they said they had 3 entrances, even though it was the vestibule. But if you could look further into that, I don't know. 277 Cedar Street. Is that a specific business? I don't see a name on page 5.
No, it was the right of way, I believe, but it was associated with that address. So
What-
it wasn't
it's not a
actually the
business
property
sign?
owner. No, it was I believe it was an off-premise sign.
Oh, okay.
Temporary sign, right?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
44 Dean Drive on page 6. I brought this up when we talked about, when we were going over a few years ago about all the containers, because people use them for selling their house or fixing from a flood or or something like that. This doesn't seem long, and we're right out there. Like on the 11th, and I mean, if someone's closing on a house or doing a repair and they need this, I don't know how it becomes a violation if it's part of an insurance claim or something like that, and it never really got resolved from Craig when we went through this last year.
Yeah, I think we decided it was just too complicated to try to come up with a one-size-fits-all regulation, so we just let.
So if someone has a need for one for a renovation or insurance, or they're moving and they get a violation, even though.
Well, we allow storage units for 60 days as long as it's behind the home. In this particular case, the complainant said that the storage unit had been there for a year. And so that's when I got involved. So
He
they
still
didn't.
has some time. You're giving him 30 days from from March 18th. Okay, so April 18th, he's beyond the time.
Yeah.
And on the
Okay, no, I just.
April 30th, they were waiting for it to be picked up, so
Okay.
check it out.
Question on the Fen Road properties, 36 Fen Road, Verizon, Express, Cuts, all those. Is Verizon specifically, it's compliant on the 1st of March, and now we're back to violations on the 22nd of April?
Correct. Yes.
So would that not go right into violations because you've already got the violations reported and inspections and all the notices sent out? Why are we redoing all that again when they've automatically reviolated the ordinance?
Well, just kind of the evolution of this complaint. I was doing my best to speak with people face to face first, and the first time I went in there, I spoke with an associate. The second time, I spoke with the manager. The third time, I called the owner. And so if it's not compliant after that, then I will send a letter and take further action.
So are we going to close that, when it becomes compliant, are we closing these out or are we keeping them open? Because the way I look at this report is, on both of these properties, they became compliant, and then the next week, or excuse me, the next month, they went back into non-compliance. Wouldn't it be issued a new, instead of following the same thing?
I listed it that way so you could see the full timeline and,
Gotcha.
and scope of
Gotcha.
their violation.
I had two last ones. 136 West Hartford Road. That truck's back again last night.
Okay. I haven't seen them. I've driven by a few times.
Tan truck's back. He has
It's
three
not-
trucks, a red,
Okay.
a tan, and a blue.
Okay, I'll look into it.
Cool. Thank you. That's all I have.
Anyone else have questions or anything for the zoning enforcement officer? Okay.
Thank you.
Any commission remarks at this time? All set? You want to bring up the, or you want to wait?
I'll wait.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead,
just real quickly, I don't want to open up another can of worms, but to the town planner, I know this it was kind of tough Sunday for Plaza Azteca, so I'd appreciate it if you could put together a bunch of reports from the police department, et cetera, and keep it on file for next year.
Yes, I did. I've already asked the chief of police and the fire marshal for the same after-action report that we got last year to put on file for next year.
Okay, thank you.
okay. Next item, a new business. You want to read that?
Yes.
Petition 1719.
New business. A, petition 17-19, site plan modification at 262 Brockett Street, JFG Holding Company LLC, owner applicant, John Formato, 798 Southington Road, Berlin, Connecticut, contact.
Is this the patio or the other thing?
This is the other one.
This is the drive-through?
Right, if you want to look on the screen behind you, this is the drive-through. And
Where's
this
this
is an
at?
excerpt from the plan that they've submitted, that they've asked for approval of.
What business is it?
Well, it's a shopping, it's a plaza, it's
You know,
not,
what business does the drive-through go to?
It's a,
Drive-through.
it's an,
That drive-through. Gotcha.
it's, yeah,
Gotcha.
it's a driveway.
sorry.
A driveway between properties.
Pass-through.
Yeah, pass through
Thank
to
you.
the Mexican restaurant.
Gotcha.
Okay, the applicant here? You want to come forward and just,
Wasn't sure if this was a public hearing or not. Dante J. Buffy Design LLC, representing JGF Holding. This, up on the screen is the proposed pass-through between the Plaza Azteca parking lot and the 262 Brockett, which has the Sculptures Hair Salon, the eye shop, the pastry shop. And I guess just to give you a little background, I know we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. We went through the site plan approval process the first time. They did execute the plan as proposed. During construction, the site contractor had suggested to him, since there was already a gentleman's agreement between the owners of Plaza Azteca and him to use each other's parking lot for employees, maybe he should pave this little area connecting them. At the time, the owner said, that's a great idea. Why don't you do it? And we have to do an as-built anyway. We'll give that to the town and put it on record. From what I'm being told, it wasn't a completed project. There's no curbing. He just literally laid like an inch and a half of bituminous between the two properties. He said he did call the town engineer to have him come out and sought direction for what to do next to make the pass-through proper. And they told him to go through this process. So that's kind of where we are now. I've since spoken to him, and I think he understands better that even doing what he did was not the right way to go. And I know he is apologetic for that. It was sort of an impromptu thing by the site contractor. Like I said, there is still work to do to complete it. I believe there's a $30,000 bond with the town for this. So he's trying to correct a wrong and finish this the right way. And again, he has noted that the Plaza Azteca has agreed. They said they're.
Puerto Vallarta?
I'm sorry?
Don't you mean Puerto Vallarta?
Is it Puerto Vallarta? I'm
Yeah.
sorry. That they would craft a letter in agreement of the pass-through and having the employees share the parking.
you had some, you had requested some information last meeting, minutes or?
Yeah,
oh, I'm sorry, no, I'm sorry, I did not do that. But I did give you a copy of the original plan, which is in your packet. Yep.
I think Commissioner Fox was talking about some parking things from the last thing, and so I mentioned maybe it would be nice to have the minutes, but I think the one-way is going to be difficult because I think that people are still going to come in the opposite way, and it's going to be used as a two-way, even though it's a one-way. You know, if they have sufficient parking, I think I'd rather see it the way it was designed, but that's just me.
Anthony?
Just need clarification for me. Is there a permanent, well, I say permanent, invisible property line between the two properties? Or is it one big parcel?
No, you get that bold dash dash, bold dash dash, that's
Okay,
the,
just wanna
that's the
make
property
sure.
boundary.
Okay. And secondly, is there in that property from when this was redesigned, there was that parcel of land that had to get flopped out. Are there any easements that are still in this vicinity of this so-called pass-through?
Well, I think there's some like drainage or MDC utilities, but none that impact its use as a pass-through.
So what is the concrete pad now over here?
That's where the dumpster will go, which was going to go where the pass-through is now. I can toggle back and forth
Oh,
between
I see it proposed. Okay.
the previous plan if you'd like.
So let me, as I look at this top sheet, the original,
Yes.
for 262 Brockett Street and 2391 Berlin Turnpike, is that the original address, the Berlin Turnpike, or is that 2391 the address of Puerto Vallarta?
Well, okay. I'll call it the plaza, where the building that has the beauty parlor, and there's a pastry shop there, and I think there's another building or another business. And then there's the building where Artichoke Bacills is.
Yep.
Those two lots have been merged. Now, the Anthony or the Artichoke
Artichoke.
facility property had the Berlin Turnpike address, and for marketing purposes, they really like keeping that Berlin Turnpike address, which makes sense, except you can't get there from the Berlin Turnpike anymore. You can only get there from 262 Brockett.
Okay.
But you'll still see people use the Berlin Turnpike 4-digit number, and historically, we have to reference it that way, because that's how it used to be known as. But we're not talking about the Puerto Vallarta
I just want to make sure that the 2391
That
was
would
not
be the
Puerto Vallarta.
No, that's the pizza. the
Inclinate
pizza.
some type of sharing
Yeah.
of that concrete pad. Okay. Secondly, the new addition on the next to the back building, which was the addition on past the eye doctor, which I don't know what it is now, but it has been built. The parking for the way it was originally designed was modified in the site plan to accommodate that building also. So this parking is not just for the Artichokes originally, it's for the whole complex.
Correct.
And it never, just to be clear, it never had any, I don't think it was ever tied in with it never had a pass-through prior before they changed this. It was always a dead-end parking lot between those two properties. There was a grass knoll between both of them. I just want to make sure there was never a pass-through before.
I'm not positive.
I think there was, it just wasn't paved.
Correct, there was not a pass-through before. There was not a physical paved area. They used to walk across between the two parcels.
Okay.
But they couldn't drive across there. They used to, the people from the hairdressers used to park in the Mexican restaurants, park and then walk over there. But they could not access it from their property. They had to access it from the Berlin Turnpike
Okay.
through the entrance to the restaurant. So this is new. This is something, this wasn't there before. Mr. Fox, you had a question?
Yeah, I think like Commissioner Payne, I can see problems with it not really being used as a one-way, people coming in from the turnpike. And did you say that was going to be for employees only?
Yes, I think the engineer explained that he did it one way for two reasons. One, safety reasons. It's a small, narrow opening.
Yeah.
Didn't want to
I was over
encourage
there today. No, you
two-way
don't.
traffic.
Yeah.
And it is predominantly used, as the chairman said, by the sculpture's employees. So rather than having the sculpture's employees entering through the Mexican restaurant site, they would still enter through the sculpture's site, park in the back, and then walk.
Right. I can understand that, but on a busy weekend, I think we've mentioned it before, Puerto Vallarta is quite busy.
It is.
They are quite busy.
Sure.
And I'm sure if there's any kind of a parking problem, the people will be crossing over into Puerto Vallarta, kind of overfilling that parking lot. So I don't know, unless you can put an electric gate on it or something. So, I don't know.
16 feet.
Any other commissioners have?
I have one last question.
Go ahead. Anthony.
For the applicant, with the change here, how many parking spaces have you deleted?
I apologize, I don't have the site plan in front of me. I believe there was, with the pass-through from the original, I think it's only one space difference because of the concrete pad.
And then it doesn't affect that was a modified LID, right?
Yep.
Wasn't this a modified?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. we
That
can
doesn't,
leave-
don't worry about
right,
that.
right.
You answered it for me.
Yeah, Stanley.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Might be able to resolve this if you're going to make this one way, because it's only 16 feet wide. Might be able to stripe it so as that you narrow it down so it's only 12 feet for a vehicle pass-through with striping.
Any other remarks by the commissioners on this? Okay.
Well, I think last meeting, maybe this was already said, the town engineer said something about losing one parking space if it went this way.
Yeah, you're going to move
Yeah.
the one there.
This parking space is a problem, and I think that's one reason why the designer recommended one way, because if there's a car here
Right.
and a car coming down here, they're not going to see each other. This car's going to back up, and this car driving south, south is not going to see him. So the town engineer recommended that this be eliminated, which on paper can be done, because on paper, the site has more than enough parking. So that would be, if you do approve it, I would recommend it be with a stipulation that this be somehow eliminated as a parking space.
Stanley, the 16 feet, is that adequate for two-way traffic?
No, it's got to be at least 20.
Any other commissioner? Go ahead, Steve.
If we don't approve it, is the commission, because the dumpster pad, I believe, is constructed, right, on an angle. The dumpster pad is in place right now,
Correct.
as the new site plan shows it.
Yes.
Correct? So, are we looking to have the dumpster pad put back to where it was, to the original site plan, or are we gonna, so if we don't, that space is lost anyways?
No, the dumpster pad was going to go where the pathway is
Yeah,
now.
the dumpster pad right now is where the new site plan is showing it.
I don't know if there is one.
Yes, you're right. It is currently where the
Yeah, so my
proposed
question
shows
is,
it to be.
does the dumpster pad have to be demolished and moved back to where it was supposed to be originally?
Well, absent other instruction from the commission, that's what the CEO is going to tell them to do, is at the end of the day, the site needs to look like it was approved, whatever it was, a couple of years ago, which means the dumpster would then be where the pathway is.
Any other questions?
I was gonna say, I don't think that there's gonna be a cut-through. I don't see that anybody is going to come off the Berlin Turnpike, go through Port of Vallarta, to pick up some time. They're gonna just continue to Brockett and take a right, but by far be faster. So if it serves the two property owners well, I really don't have an issue with it. Again,
Do you have the information from the Port of Vallarta, as far
They-
as a letter saying that they agree with
JGF
this?
Holding spoke to me today and said the Port of Vallarta's attorney said that whatever language or information or contract the town would require, they're ready to present forth. They just weren't sure which form you'd like it in. If you want it to be more of a contract form or just a letter of acknowledgement, however you'd like it written, they're happy to. I think the root of this is that because it wasn't engaged with any of the surrounding streets or any other properties besides the two that were in mutual agreement, he truly didn't think this would be any kind of an issue and thought it would be a no-brainer to get approved. He wouldn't have done this in the beginning had he thought it was going to upset the apple cart. It truly wasn't done with any malice. It's two property owners that have no problem with this sharing of the parking, and this seems like a logical way to connect them. But anything you need done to that plan or documentation from either owner, they're happy to supply.
Yeah, that would be a condition of approval, that there be an easement on file in the land record, so that future property owners know
Sure.
what they're buying.
Any other commissioner comments? Okay, it's under new business. What is the pleasure of the commissioners?
There's a draft motion in the folder if anybody wants to.
I move that we close the, oh, actually, if it's a public hearing, so we need to keep going, right?
It's not, this is just new business. This is
Oh, I'm
not
sorry, I thought it was a public hearing. So then I move that, oh, it's already closed. So I move that we take this and move it to old business for action tonight.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're going to look at it under old business, item D. Or is it on there already?
No, it's not. You know, you could just act on it now. You don't have to move it to old business.
Yeah, but, okay, here's the question I have. We're acting on something that we have no documentation, we're gonna pontificate and use it as, you're gonna send it to us later. If they were that,
condition?
no.
Oh, that's
That's a pretty big condition across property line easement
No,
compared to
not
most of the
really.
other little kind of add-ons we do.
no, it isn't. Easements are a pretty
But-
common thing. It's not
But, okay,
anything
you say
new.
it's common, but it's not in front of us. If it's so common and this is not a big deal, I think two property owners, how do you know they're gonna agree after we leave here tonight, after we say yes to it?
Then the permit's no good. That's what conditional means. And if the two owners can't come to an agreement, then the pass-through has to be sealed off.
It's another way we just keep it.
Commissioner Fox?
Mr. Chairman, I kind of think along Commissioner Claffey's ways. I'd like to make sure that there is some kind of agreement between the two property owners before we approve it. You know, because or put a time limit. You know, once we approve it, that an agreement, hold harmless or whatever, be submitted within 10 days to the town planner.
Yeah. Well, 30 days would be better, but sure, that
Okay.
would be a good way to do it. Yeah.
Any other comments? Where are we going with this?
I'd say we leave it as D.
What's that?
I said, again, the motion that was made, and I thought we voted on it, that it's D.
It's, okay,
Move it to old business.
we're moved it to old business. Let's look into the next one. 1819, you want to read that into the record, please?
Yeah, hold on.
Going to take it up under old business. Item.
Petition 18-19, site plan modification at 80 Fen Road, 80 Fen LLC owner, Montana Knights, applicant Merrill McKenzie, 80 Fen Road, Newington, Connecticut, contact.
Evening, Commission, back again. Believe at the last meeting, you guys asked for a bit of a better drawing than what I had submitted. So this shows what we're proposing, which is a 9 feet wide from the building out, 22 feet in length. And I have no way to name the table structure that we're building, but you guys were looking for a picture of how that was to be. So that line in the back here represents the back counter. It's going to be live edge wood mounted to the building and also to the beams. And then you see in the front piece a similar counter. And then looking at it backwards, but I believe over here there's another one that connects to the end.
Okay. Could we address the engineering problems or?
Well, we're no further along than we were 2 weeks ago. The consultant's engineer has not submitted drainage information for the town engineer.
So I spoke to him today, and I can tell you what I know of it, and I don't believe any of it's going to suffice your needs, but He said he had some back and forth with the town. I'm sure the town planner could allude to it. I didn't see the email.
No, all I know is that an actual memo went out from the town engineer to your consultant dated today. But I know from the emails that I've seen that there have been communications between your engineer and the town engineer.
Right.
But the information that the town engineering department needs is.
Well, I know the calculations are not in. Again, I'm embarrassed to even sit in front of you a month later, but I've been begging him for it, and his only answer to me is the engineer is slammed. I'm like, great, I'm going to go to my second meeting tonight and waste time. And
Problem we have is that I don't believe that this paving that portion is going to be, I think it's going to be a problem with the drainage on that piece of property. You're going to imperviate a certain amount of area there, and it's going to add to how you're draining the piece. So we want to see that. Do you have any information on it? Anybody? I know when we looked at the original parcel when he came in, that there was engineering problems with the drainage. So we want to make sure that that's
I
gonna
completely
work.
understand
Because
that.
now you're loading another, I don't know,
1,000 square.
how many square?
Wow, it's parking space each is what, 8 feet wide, 9 feet wide?
200 square feet
By 19,
approximately.
yeah.
Yeah, so
Again, being completely ignorant of the process here, I just had a conversation with him today, and not a very happy one. And he told me that should more drainage be required, more drainage ability be required, that it would mean enlarging the drainage storage area. And could we potentially, if that's correct, could we potentially say approval subject to, if you guys come back and say we need more drainage, then it's subject to that pond being increased?
Now, in,
what's that?
yeah, it's customary. It's customary when the town engineer feels that there are just a few small issues that haven't been nailed down for me to recommend to the commission to approve it, subject to the town engineer's satisfaction. But there seems to be a wide gap between the information that the engineer has and the information that he needs. So I'm not in a position to recommend that tonight.
Okay, well, what about the other portion of this plan, which is to build that outdoor structure for an outdoor seating area?
How does that work? This is all part of one big plan.
Well, it is all part of one plan. But if the commission has no objection to this patio seating idea, it doesn't impact runoff. It doesn't impact, unless you feel it does, parking.
I can address that. It's known, unless you're on a beach community, that bars suffer during the warmer months. People are outside, they go on vacation, they go to the beach, they don't come necessarily. So it's in our community, in the Axstrom bar community, there's a noticeable dip in business. So we expect less parking issues just because it'll be a slower period of time. What I want to do is just service the customers that we're going to have and give them a reason to be there. So if they want to sit outside in the nice weather, they can. And it's not like that outdoor patio is going to suddenly create a whole bunch of new people who want to come to Montana Nights in the middle of the summer, but it might prevent a steep drop-off.
And let me,
I don't think it's what you're saying is correct. It's not a big addition. It's not, but procedurally wise.
right, procedurally,
Problem because it's all one lump. There's one big application.
well,
So
but.
unless you, how do you do that?
Well, if all he had wanted to do in the first place was put the dining on the patio,
He would come in under a different.
he wouldn't
section.
even need to have come to you because it's such a strange thing. It's not like a restaurant. He wouldn't have even needed to come to you, except for the fact that when you approved his liquor license, you specifically approved it with the condition that any change involving the sale or consumption of alcohol, of liquor had to come back to you. So that was a kind of for that reason, and really for only that reason, he's in front of you as far as the patio is concerned. So I don't have a problem if the commission wants to approve the patio with doing it. And by, I don't have a problem as in, I don't think that's a violation of your procedures, of your regulations.
Could we split the petition into like Part A, Part B? Approve A, meaning the patio and the overhang, and B,
I think so.
would then move forward when we get to, I think it's a good idea to not move forward until we get the drainage calculations. Because I think if we do put it as a condition, it's only going to slow down the process till we get them. I think there needs to be some incentive to get them.
Yeah.
By not moving forward with that part of it until we get them from them, it might.
Well, it certainly worked the last time I had to clean up the last mess at 80 Fen Road. That's my next text going out of here, tonight. Hey, thanks for the help. But it would be wonderful if I could at least get the seating area done while we determine what the needs are for the parking space.
Mr. Minor. Question on the approval of when we approve the liquor license, is it based on the occupancy? And B, is if you add seating outside, how does that affect his original occupancy allowance?
Right. The approval was not based on the amount of, on the occupancy.
For the liquor license?
The liquor license, right. The condition of approval, I don't remember where in the process that showed up, whether that was like an early concern or a last minute concern, but it wasn't. But the liquor permit that you issued, the validity of it didn't hinge on the amount of seating.
But
that was just a condition that you imposed because it's a strange, this accident thing is kind of an unusual thing, and so the commission was a little cautious.
Yeah, no,
so that's
I
why they
agree.
put that condition on it.
It was, when we approved it, did we approve it just for the interior of the building? Or, that's maybe ignorance on myself for liquor license permitting, if outside or inside.
Well, you certainly were
other
only told that there was liquor inside. At the time that he applied for his liquor license from you, there was no mention of any liquor going outside, because that probably would have been a problem.
I can speak to both
not wanted
points.
to do that. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to
Sure, no,
interrupt.
go ahead.
In regards to occupancy and whether or not it would increase or decrease, we have this weird thing, and it kind of hurts us when we have live music. Occasionally, we have a guy with a guitar play some live music in there. They usually function on hey, I've got a following, I can bring you people, that's why you should pay me. But you can't come to Montana Nights and just hang out. We don't allow it. You have to come to throw axes.
Gotcha.
So it's inherent in what we do that there's a limit amount of people, no matter what seating we do. So that part of it doesn't increase just because we get extra seating.
Well, and with that said, this is one of my major concerns, and it kind of goes on both sides of our discussion here, is I think the business is great.
Thank you.
I just see every night it's getting more and more popular, which is great on your part. But last night you had a huge event there. And when I say huge, you had cars parked across the street.
Hence the...
No, and that's why it's two separate things. That's why I want to make sure that if you go to outdoor seating, it doesn't hurt you for the second part.
Yeah.
And how it affects his permit for liquor that we approved.
Again,
the
only thing I can refer back to is, regardless of the size of our event, you cannot exceed the amount of lanes we have throwing. So we're rated by the town, I think, at 301 people. I think, and I've never had a total count on it, but as people come in for one group and other people leave, we've probably seen something of 150 people in the building.
Gotcha.
We're rated for 301, 20 some odd seats outside where you can't come and sit unless you're already paying us, should not increase.
No,
and I appreciate the
I just
concern.
want
I'm just
both
taking the
sides
time.
of this.
What was the second item that you had a question on? Because I had an answer or a response to it. You had a second piece to that.
The second piece was, if, with it being two parts here, with the outdoor seating, does that then garnish the ability of the business owner to come in and I've switched it.
I remember what you, I'm sorry, I remember my point.
Okay,
It might not have been to that specifically. So when I first applied for the alcohol permit, it was midsummer or late spring, and I knew that there was no way I was going to have the funds, the mental acuity, and the plans to do the outdoor portion. And when I went to the state, they said, "Oh, you didn't fill out this outdoor portion of your application, so you could have this." I said, "Yeah, I'll do it in the spring when we have better plans for it and I have money left to do it." So that's the only reason why I didn't ask for it up front when I came before the commission, because I didn't foresee a time in the near future where I could have
So
afforded it.
that is what garnished my question of, if you do outdoor seating and it's allowed, does it hinder occupancy, add to it, lessen it? I don't think so, but I know we've had this with other establishments that have outdoor seating, where if you have outdoor seating, you can have this many more people. If you have indoor seating, you can move the furniture. You know how that all goes. So that's why the only reason I asked it was
No,
on
that-
some
fair-
other points. And I
Fair
think
question,
you're doing
but I
great
think-
things. You're in a little holding pattern.
What kind of event you had that you had to park across the street?
Just a large corporate event. There was actually two. It's a company two companies that had 40 to 50 people per group come in, plus normal business. But
I thought you said they only could come if they throw the axe.
they do. They were all throwing the axes.
To my point of seeing more vehicles, it wasn't to the point, and I want to make this clear to everyone here, what I saw, and it's just to driving home. Unfortunately, I live down that way. It wasn't like people were stumbling across the road and walking out. It was, and anytime I've never seen a problem after or during when I'm driving by. I just happen to be driving when his hours of operation are later at night, and I see it differently than maybe our CEO who drives around during the day.
We're very
But
fortunate.
it's I've never seen people like trash left or anything like that. So I want to make it clear that it's not a disturbance to my community of that side of town where I spend probably 80% of my day.
To Commissioner Claffey's point, yeah, it does get pretty busy there, especially on a Saturday night, which is why I'm coming in front of you. And the second part of this thing, which I know we're not going to settle tonight, in asking for increased parking to address that. Aside from the need, which, the success of the business has generated, the outdoor seating itself is not going to contribute to more people coming because you still have a certain amount of lanes. And once they're there, there's no other place to throw.
What's the commission's want to do with this? You want to?
Chairman, I have a few questions.
Go ahead.
Sure.
You showed the structure. Is it just, is there a roof on that, or is it just showed?
There is a
beams?
roof. They didn't include it because they're not going to be part of the roof. I hired a different guy to put sheet metal roofing on it.
Okay. And then it didn't show any protective bollards around the outside of it. I want to make sure that we don't have a runaway car in the parking lot. So I think it's safe that we have those around there.
Without a doubt.
And then I think we just have to make sure that you have language in there that he comes back for this second part, if you're going to do it, because you wouldn't want it not to have the parking after the fact. And I think he needs the parking anyway.
I need the parking.
So I don't think he's going to object to that because
Not at all.
I think he needs the parking anyway. So I don't have a problem moving this forward in two sections, A and B or something.
Tom kind of covered it. I'm fine with it, so.
With your permission, I'd love to have the sign off on the seating portion of this, and I realize I need to come back.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
We keep referring it to a seating. Is there seating? Because
Yeah,
your plan doesn't show any chairs.
well,
I just thought it was kind of like a
it's
standing
going to have
area.
bar stools.
Bar stools, 10 on
Yeah.
each side.
Yeah.
And you need to leave that with me tonight. Okay.
Okay, someone move it to old business E.
Make a motion, we close the motion and move it to old business.
Motion made, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
So now do I wait for old business and?
If you want to know what we're going to do,
Yeah, have a
that'd be-
seat, but in the audience, yeah.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
okay. Item D, Newington Ridge Preserve, Mr. Planner.
Okay, well, I put this on the agenda when I did the agenda last week, as I do every meeting. But then a few days later, I got a letter from the president of the Homeowners Association asking that the commission take action and call the bond. So I forwarded the letter to the commissioners, and there's a copy of it in your packet. And if the commission does want to call the bond and get started on it, I prepared a draft motion for the commission's use. It's short and sweet, just to notify the developer, in accordance with the agreement, that it's your intent to finish the work using the performance bond funds that were on file in the town.
Okay, open it up to the commission to, we can discuss this here, can we? Yes.
Yes.
My question, which has been since I think this started, was, did we get any of the test results back from all the work that was supposed to be done? And I remember there was communication between our engineer for this town, waiting on information from borings, and so has that come back in final or no?
Well, we have always had information to indicate that the work was not done correctly and the road is substandard. We've always, from the paving company that was hired by the developer.
So they submitted documentation that showed that the compaction tests, all the things that our town engineer would sign off on.
They submitted documentation showing that the road is substandard.
I question whether or not you're saying the whole road is substandard. I don't believe that.
That's correct. I have no idea how much of the road, but certainly the part that was sampled showed that it was.
Has any of those
yeah.
reports been given to us since I've asked for them repeatedly now?
You were given what you've always had, all that we've always had, which is that the road, the work that was done was not acceptable to the town engineer. We haven't been waiting. I mean, you could always ask for something to, 3 more decimal points, but there is sufficient information on file to indicate that the road was done incorrectly. And if the commissioners would like copies of that, I can send that to you.
Mr. Woods.
I don't have a problem with moving forward with calling the bond, or at least starting the process. But I do have a problem with the motion.
I can't hear, I think your mic is turned off somehow.
Better? Yeah, there we go. Thank you.
on.
Yes? Yeah.
No, it's not on.
Better now?
That's,
Okay. The first sentence, I move to notify Griswold Farms LLC of the TPC's intent to complete the improvements. I don't believe it is the TPC's responsibility to complete it. I think it's our responsibility to see that it's done, but not actually do the work.
that language is from the agreement itself, which is why I used it. Yeah, that's the exact language from the, and if you approve the motion, you're indicating to the applicant or the developer that it is your intent to, I don't have it in front of me, complete the project. And it is your intent. You gentlemen aren't going to do it because you're here twice a month, but the town will then do what we need to do to complete the project.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'll see it.
I think that the developer needs a little bit of time to straighten out the wetlands problem, because I think he's having a problem getting his approval on wetlands. And if I remember correctly, when he came in last time, he had to redo his application, because it's not just the contractor, but it's also the association. So moving forward, the association and the contractor have to apply to wetlands and get it final approval, because the association owns some of it and he owns some of it. So I believe, since we made the contractor redo his application previously, that he's got to follow that same procedure. And I believe he sent an email to the planner that he's acquiring a lawyer and trying to straighten out some problems with Wetlands Commission.
Well, but that's an important problem for him, for other issues that he has with this site, but that's not, that's not relevant to the road, because we can finish the road without violating any of his wetland issues.
It's extremely relevant, because he has no, if he doesn't get the wetlands done, he can't build any houses, and he can't finish what he's doing. So it is really a big part of it.
Financially, sure.
Financially,
Sure.
and that's basically what it is. And I believe in the email, he said he was coming back to do some additional work. I just think it's premature. I know he's having difficulties with the Wetlands Commission, and so I think we have to give him a little bit of time for that. And I would want the town attorney here to advise us.
I'll be here anyway.
I asked that, I agree.
Commissioner Fox?
Actually, I'm having a bit of a hard time, following Commissioner Payne's and Commissioner Claffey's comments. The inland wetlands approval aside, I think this developer, this Massimino, has a lot more problems than trying to get approval from the inland wetlands. He's not going to be able to build any houses there. Number one, I don't think he has a license, and he has. This is the second binder course that has been
That's failed.
put down, and that's failing. I know that's failing it in at least two places. I've seen it. Every time he goes down there, it seems as if the place looks, the development looks worse than it did before. And so, I know it's not a public road, and it's between the contractor and the homeowners association, but this has been going on for a long time. As a matter of fact, the first time I was on this commission, which ended in 2008, is when this was first approved under a different developer, under and different different parties altogether. I mean, all the talk that we're doing here is only going to postpone and force these people to endure a lot more hardships, and they didn't sign up for this. I think we have to do something. I don't know what it is. We might have to talk to Attorney Ancona again, but these people deserve some regress.
Could I correct what I said to Commissioner Woods? No, you're right. It should say the town of Newington, because that's what the agreement says, is that provided the town of Newington supplies written notification of its intent to complete the
I
work.
read it a couple times,
You're
I
right.
can't find it.
Yeah, it should be town of Newington, not TPC's intent.
Okay, then
Yeah,
I'm
you're
fine with
correct.
that.
You're correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. And then, if I may, again, on the first page of this performance bond agreement, to complete all work outlined in paragraph 1 to the satisfaction of the town of Newington by May 15th, 2017. So it's 1 week shy of 2 years.
I'm going to allow the vice chairman of the association to come up and give us her take on why they sent the letter and what they're trying to accomplish and how they want to accomplish it. So we got an idea, because this is a very complicated, this is not a straightforward bond issue that we
Hopefully I can
normally
make it easier for you.
Go ahead.
Janet Chernikoff, 4 Deming Farm Drive. Gentlemen, I have listened to you now for close to 2 years, and I'm going to ask you to please listen to me what I'm saying tonight. It's very important. I am speaking tonight as the Vice President of the Newington Ridge Preserve Condo Association, or Homeowners Association as we call it here. An email from Cheryl Rocco, our president, was sent to the town planner on Monday and forwarded to the commissioners requesting that the performance bond that the town has been holding be called due to lack of performance by our developer. In our opinion, this bond should have been called on May 15th, 2017, almost 2 years ago, when it was realized that the developer had ceased building or developing this property. I am here tonight to tell you that we expect the TPZ to act correctly and pull the bond. On February 13th, 2019, at this meeting, Mr. Massimino came before this commission as you requested him to do. Prior to that meeting, he had requested a bond reduction, upon which we wrote you a detailed letter explaining why the HOA did not believe he deserved this money. The town engineer also sent you an opinion letter stating that the town not release any funds until the road had been approved. After Mr. Massimino saw our letter, he pulled his request for the bond reduction. Per the instructions of this commission, the board met with Mr. Massimino, and the board, I mean our board, met with Mr. Massimino in mid-March to come up with a plan to resolve our recurring issues. We went over each and every item on the objection letter and a few others that concerned us. On March 28th, an email from the HOA president was sent to the town planner as well as Mr. Massimino documenting what was discussed at our meeting. Besides the items listed on our objection letter, Mr. Massimino agreed to remove the sale sign facing Griswold Avenue, deal with erosion prevention, and have Michael Bennett draw a new site plan showing drainage behind lots 1 and 2 and two retaining walls behind lot 1. Mr. Massimino asked the board for 30 to 45 days to complete, if not make significant progress on each item discussed. The 45-day period expired on April 28th. I am here tonight to report that nothing was accomplished. Not even one rock was removed from our site. Nor from the date of the meeting did Mr. Massimino ever contact the board regarding this work, or should I say lack of work. This is the third time the commission requested that the board meet with the developer, and this is our results. I have spent a lot of time going through old minutes, and I would like to address some concerns I found by some of the commissioners. Commissioner Payne, at the February 13th meeting, you asked Mr. Massimino if, after he meets with the association, does he plan on filing a modified plan to eliminate certain things and get the wetlands thing taken care of? Mr. Massimino responded yes. I spoke to Michael Bennett 2 days ago. Mr. Bennett is the person Mr. Massimino said that we would be working with for the new modified site plan. Mr. Bennett informed me that Mr. Massimino has not hired him to do any additional work regarding Newington Ridge Preserve. Yesterday, I spoke with Eric Hinckley, the town wetlands agent. He informed me that the Wetlands Commission has had no contact with Mr. Massimino, and it is the Wetlands Commission that is responsible for granting Mr. Massimino the remaining 4 permits on which to build homes. In February of 2018, Wetlands requested additional information based on a report sent from Mr. Logan, who works for REMA Ecological Services. Mr. Logan would not send the information due because of an outstanding invoice. At a later meeting, for a TPZ meeting, Mr. Massimino acknowledged this to be true. I would like to read to you an email sent to Mr. Hinckley from George Logan, obtained by the Freedom of Information Act. It's from rema8@aol.com, sent Sunday, March 11th, 2018, to Eric Hinckley. Subject, regarding Newington Ridge site. Eric, has the commission or the town made any decisions with regard to their disposition towards the applicant/property owner? We are owed $3,564, most of it over 200 days overdue. I need to know so that I can take appropriate actions, which may include legal. I have only a few weeks to put forth a lien on the property, after which my legal window closes. I hope that the town takes appropriate action as well. Best, George T. Logan, REMA Ecological Services, LLC. Commissioners, you all appear to be intelligent men, so I'm asking you, if Mr. Massimino had the money to remove dirt and attempt to fix our road, wouldn't you think if he really wanted to build the remaining 4 lots, he would have paid Mr. Logan the $3,564, plus now any possible interest, to gain access to the information that the Wetlands Commission wanted so he could obtain his permits. I'd like you to think about that. Commissioner Woods, I've read in previous minutes that you feel for us, for what we're going through. You were concerned also that the developer was having financial issues. And I gather you may have felt that he deserved additional consideration. Is that correct?
It was.
Right. Okay. So I want to just state there are multiple liens on the remaining of undeveloped lots, and several of these liens are from the town of Newington. I learned today, when I was in the town clerk's office, that as of April 26th, a new judgment for approximately $80,000 resulted in a new lien against the properties that are remaining that Mr. Massimino owns. To me, on top of the existing liens, that means less profits for anything Mr. Massimino chooses to develop. Also, even without sufficient funds to do everything on the list, and I'm talking about the list was our objection list, Mr. Massimino himself, or with his brother Anthony, could have fixed the orange fencing around the open lot, which he said he would do immediately, mid-March, and remove the sale sign, since he told the board he needs to make us happy before he can sell any additional homes. What he neglected to mention is that I would think before he could build the homes, he would need a valid new home contractor's license, which, according to the Department of Consumer Protection that I checked today, is still suspended under the name of mass construction. So before you give him another opportunity, I would like to know if he has a valid new home contractor's license in order to build these homes. And if so, under what name? Because when I tried under Massimino, I still couldn't come up with a valid license. Commissioner Claffey, you asked if the town ever received testing on the road from Mr. Massimino. Gary, the town engineer, is still waiting for information that Mr. Massimino said he would send. As of this morning, and according to the town engineer, he has not received it. So in summary, the HOA has had to pay to have the road swept from all the debris that was left over from the winter with the road crumbling, the brand new road. We've had the road been completed by the drop date deadline agreed upon by the builder of September 28th. And I want to refer to the August, hold on, I put it on my phone. I think it was August 22nd. Yes, the August 22nd, page 3 and 4. If he had agreed to, well, this is what he agreed, the drop date line. And according to the town attorney, if he hadn't completed the road by the 28th, then it was an automatic that the bond would be pulled. Please check your minutes. If we had done this if he had put in the road by September 28th, we wouldn't have had all the rain. Maybe the road wouldn't have been perfect, but it certainly would have been better than doing it in the middle of December to the end of December. And when the town engineer was here for your meeting, not one of you requested, he sat through the whole meeting, not one of you asked him a question. The question I would have liked you to ask is he has it on record on one of the reports that I believe, and I have to double check which company it was, said, don't do it, it's too cold to do the road. So, now the HOA is paying to correct damages that occurred when they backfilled the curbs with rocks and gravel. That should have been the developer's responsibility. By the TPZ allowing our developer to dig and pave the road in late December, the HOA will now be incurring additional unexpected costs required to remove two huge piles, one of process and one of gravel mixed with dirt. I called a contractor. He said, if I could get anybody to take this, one being process and not the best process, and the other being, again, gravel mixed with dirt from the side of Lot 1, it would cost anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 if I had a spot for it. So I'm asking the town or anybody if they know of anybody that wants this. The rock plunge pool next to Lot 10 had to be reinforced by additional rocks. The owner took it upon themselves to do this because there was much erosion. The amount of land between the plunge pool and the house has deteriorated. So now we are less feet. I would imagine that if they were to get a CO now, they probably wouldn't have been able to get it because it's too close. But I don't know all the rules and regulations, and I would love anybody to come out and see for themselves. Our road has not met town approval. There is no modified site plan as promised by the developer. Lots 1 and 2 still deal with the flooding issues. The dirt behind Lot 1, which Mr. Massimino was to remove before the road was done, still remains. The open foundation is being used as a dumping ground for building materials not being used because there's no building. I don't know if blight affects that, but it's not the place for it. And it would only be a minor labor charge for Mr. Massimino to incur, as he said he would put these materials into the empty house next door. He said that, and he has not done anything. I can go on longer with everything, but let it be known that the homeowners at Newington Ridge Preserve are saying enough is enough. We expect the TBZ to pull the bond and let us make our development a place that is worthy of the taxes that we are paying. I thank you for your time and consideration, and I would love it if you have any questions.
I have a question.
Sure.
What, if we pulled the bond, what does the homeowners association want to do? Do you want to do the work?
This is how it was explained to me.
Okay.
Different from how the lawyer had explained it back in September.
Who's this, Ben?
Ben,
Incona?
yeah. And he did it at the meeting. I mean,
Okay.
at a meeting a year ago in March.
Okay.
And I've spoken to Craig numerous times about how this would be handled. It is my understanding that the town holds the agreement with Michael Massimino,
Yes.
or whatever company under that. Griswold Farms, I honestly don't remember. The town held that money because a previous developer had gone bankrupt. And in order to ensure that things get done correctly, the town had that money should the current developer not do it.
I understand all of that. I'm
Okay, it is
asking
my
you what
understanding, okay.
This association wanted to
It is
do.
my
They wanna finish-
understanding that we will work with the town. Craig had said that the town would hold the money. We would then bid out certain jobs, primarily our road and behind lots 1 and 2, which are the serious problems. That would go first. We would deal with the town. We would be more than willing to get quotes. Obviously, if there was an engineering question, we would expect the town engineer to answer our question. Such as for the road, we would hire professional contractors. We would then expect the town, we would have our bids. If the town wanted to review it with us, we'd be more than happy. We would, after the proposals are submitted, decide who we want to go with, get our references, go to the town, expect the town to give us the money if we have to do a down payment, have the work done, show the invoice to the town that, yes, we have this done, and expect them to cut us a check or pay them directly. I don't know how the town works on that. That's how I was told that's what you would tell me, Craig.
Is that correct?
Oh, well, there are dozens of different ways that this could be done.
Okay, the
So
last
that's-
conversation we had like a couple weeks ago, that's what you told me.
That's a scenario that works.
Okay, so I would be more than willing, and the board would be more than willing to talk to the town the best way to do this. Do I think there's enough money to have everything done? No.
Then what is there's some legal questions here. There's not enough money. Who's responsible for the deficiencies that are not covered by the bond? The town of Newington, the association, who?
That would have to be legal.
Well, what I would recommend is that, and I think there is enough money to fix the road, but I would recommend that
But it might be enough to fix the road and do some other, but to complete all of the deficiencies.
well, that's what I started to
there's not
say.
enough money.
Well, I think there is, but if there isn't, do what's most important first and leave things like the gazebo, which I know is out,
Right.
or streetlights, or, leave things that are less important than the road itself, and
And it's
concentrate
very
on
possible if
fixing the
that
road.
project were ever sold, that the next person would be handling it. I mean, if a developer was going to buy it, do you think he really cares if he had to put in another streetlight?
We need advice from the attorney as to how it would work. I'm not opposed to pulling the bond.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I'm not opposed to pulling the bond.
Okay.
Based on the information, just what you just said, okay? This has gone on 2 years longer than it's supposed to. We made commitments, we've made promises, no one's keeping the promises. We're getting all kinds of conflicting stuff. The guys, the developer obviously is not gonna go in and do anything. So it's time to fish or cut bait, one or the other. We gotta pull the bond. But I want to make sure that it's done in the right way, and I don't want the town of Newington on the hook for items that are not covered by the bond. So we need legal advice as to how and what procedure that we follow to pull the bond. I'm just
Chairman,
not
can I
gonna
just say something?
Go ahead.
This has been going on 2 years. This has been going on a year ago. March is when this first came up. Nobody knew how to answer this question then. Obviously, there hasn't been anything hard-lined as to how it should work now. Everybody had hopes that the developer would do what he was supposed to do.
Obviously, he's not going to do
Right.
it. So now
So-
we have to decide between the homeowners association and the town of Newington as to where this thing falls.
Well, you don't have to. When I was in Cromwell, I had a couple of situations where it became close to calling the bond on the developer, and there were no homeowners involved. It was just between the town and the developer. And so the town, through its engineering department, planning department, we went out to bid, hired a developer. At that point, the applicant did come around and finish the work, so we didn't have to go through the process. But it doesn't even have to involve the homeowners association. In fact, that makes it incredibly more complicated. So I'm going to suggest, don't even involving the homeowners association. Just call the bond and have the staff get her done. It really is that simple.
I don't think the town should be doing the work. If you're going to
Oh, no,
call,
we would hire a contractor to do the work, but we would oversee it. That's why we have bonds.
we're not meant to
And even if we
oversee
hire a
projects.
contractor, would we not be liable?
Liable for what?
Whatever. I mean,
Well, what do you mean liable for what? I don't know.
So,
I can't
look,
answer your question. You don't know me liable for what?
actually, I definitely want to pull the bond. But I like the chairman, I do not want to see the town liable, for anything. Can't we pull the bond, hold it, and as the homeowners association gets things done, write them checks?
Well, the short answer,
Or something of that.
One way to do it, but
there's-
that's one way to do it. The other way is that the town does it. Normally, they would not, a normal bond would not include the homeowners association or a
No, but just,
a third party.
Right.
It's the bond is between the town of Newington and the developer or whoever was at the time that put the bond money up, Stanley, and then Mr. Williams.
I think the bond should be pulled, but I have a couple questions. Number one, I'd like to see some type of a formal agreement between the town and the homeowners association. Once this is done, the town doesn't have any liability, okay? 'Cause this is a private road, and it will always be a private road.
This is more than just the road,
Right.
Commissioner.
No,
Okay.
the road is what I was starting with.
Okay.
And then the drainage behind lots 1 and 2. All right? And where the sedimentation pool, or the outflow, as you called it, where it's starting to erode. That has to be fixed, and put back to where it belongs. Okay, so I'd like to make sure the town, if they do oversee the project, put out the bid, to get some type of an agreement. That would require an attorney on your part. The other part that I'm not really sure about is, and I think our town attorney needs to weigh in on it, is how it's done. I don't know. I'm not an attorney. My concern here would be is if you release the bond, what about the work that Mr. Manamino has done on the road to put the binder course down?
It was my understanding, again, last time that we went through this in March, that whatever money was left over after those items, Mr. Massimino was entitled to. So if there is any money after the road is fixed and everything else on that list, on the bond that needs to get done, he was entitled to any of the money.
And so let me ask you a question. Supposing there's not enough money to remove the material that's stockpiled, the homeowners association is going to have to come up with foot the bill on that?
No, those are items that we will discuss priorities.
Okay.
I mean, we do safety first.
I fully understand, that. All I'm questioning is, so if you don't have enough money, then let's assume you exhaust all the money that's in the bond. How do you go about getting the rest of the items straightened out? That's what I'm asking.
I think we would, hopefully with the town, set our priorities. That, to me,
Not answering the question. The question is, if you have a deficiency, who's going to be responsible to finish?
the homeowners will not be responsible
So who you're saying the town of Newington is? Who is going to be?
for everything on that list.
Yeah.
No, we're not responsible for wetlands. We're not contractors.
I understand that, but that's the rub here, is that this
If you're
commission, this commission does not want to put the town of Newington in jeopardy of having to pay for items beyond the scope of the bond.
Gentlemen, this town held the money for 2 years. We could have gotten a lot more done in 2 years. Those piles that now will cost us $2,000 would never have been there. Does the town have some responsibility? Yes. Will we require the town, once the road is done, that they're responsible for our road from that day on? Absolutely not. If they fix the drainage, we don't expect, after the drainage is done, the drainage is done.
Okay, that, you're still not answering the question, and you know what the question is. The question is how is the homeowners association going to put the town of Newington in the position of having to pay for items that are not covered by the bond because there's not enough money?
That's the question.
That's the question.
Okay, so my question is, we will go
Not a question, I want an answer.
Okay, well, my answer is, I will preface it that way. I think we need to see how much everything, I have no idea what it's going to cost to fix the road. I have some estimates about what it could possibly cost for the drainage. There is certainly enough money in there. As far as, if there's another light that needs to be done and there's no money, we'll pay for it. Or the new developer will pay for it. Will we be responsible for fixing everything in wetlands that Michael hasn't done? Absolutely not.
On the wetlands, if it's got to be resolved, that's behind the two houses there, so that has to be resolved.
That's a different wetlands. I'm talking about the wetlands that, according to George Logan, Michael waited too long and now it almost has to be done. I guess where the red house was there at one time.
I don't know about that.
That's what I'm talking
This is
about.
why it would be prudent for this commission to sometimes have the town attorney, and we definitely need legal counsel here next meeting so that we can resolve this.
Okay.
So I would ask that we have our legal counsel and our town engineer and wetlands here, okay? So that we can have our questions answered, and the town attorney should probably give us some things in advance for the commissioners so that we can read it before the meeting, so that then if we have questions, we can ask it at the meeting, so that we can resolve this for the homeowners as fast as possible.
Thank you. At our March meeting, or in another conversation I had with the town attorney, it was his preference that the town give us the money in total and say goodbye and wash their hands of it. That was the last time that I had spoken.
Mr. Fox.
Well, yeah, she's exactly right. On page 25 of the
Imagine that.
minutes of March 14, 2018, Attorney Ancona said just that. And that's what I was talking about before, taking it and turning it over. But, it can't be that simple, I don't think.
Well, again,
So I think we do need the town attorney.
Hang on a second.
Okay, like Commissioner Payne, I think we do need the town attorney's advice, and right away, not even ASAP, yesterday, and to get it back to us yesterday so we can have a meeting, whether it's a special meeting or not, and decide what to do. I would like to see the bond pulled and then have the town attorney do the research and then, tell us what to do. And what the, any solutions and any consequences that would happen, that would happen because of them.
Let me ask the question to the, if we did that, if we made a motion to pull the bond, can we do it, what he just said, or do we
I think
need
you
the
can do
town
all,
attorneys?
you can do all of those, because under the agreement, the town has to notify the applicant of its intent to do this 30 days before you actually do anything. So you could vote tonight to advise the developer that it's the town's intent to complete the project.
Excuse me,
But then
town
in the
planner,
mean-
that's already been done.
Well, it was done so long ago.
Oh, it's valid, and if you read the minutes from September, here, I'll read it to you.
No, please don't.
Okay.
Please don't. No, I recommend that the town or the commission reaffirm its intent to complete the project. But in the meantime, then, have the town attorney come to your next meeting, have the town engineer come to your next meeting, answer the questions that you have. But in the meantime, you've started the clock, the 30-day clock ticking, which I really think we need to redo that, because it was
And I
done
don't
so
agree with
long
you.
ago
And I think that needs to be done by the town attorney. As far as I'm concerned, the town attorney had said on numerous occasions, we've given him notice. He had till the 28th of September. Had he not done it by the 28th of September, he was done.
Commissioner, Mr. Woods and then Commissioner Camillo.
This starts a process, and I think that we need. This starts a process, and I believe we need to start it. But all of this is doing is putting the developer on notice that it is the intent of the town to move forward on calling the bond. So I could tell you this, you will probably more than likely see either Mr. Massimino or his attorney once this letter gets out.
That's fine.
So it's going to start the process, but the process is not going to go as quickly as you like. I
Okay,
don't
so
believe-
what I'm going to ask of you is please speak to the town attorney before you decide this, because according to the town attorney, on a recent conversation, not within the last, not that recent, he had said that the town has done everything they are required to do. And the question was whether this committee, as we said, automatically pulls the bond, or the fact that they have to vote to pull the bond. So before you decide that you need to give him 30 days' notice, I wish that you speak to the town attorney first. And as a taxpayer, I wish you speak to the town attorney first.
Again,
Hang on.
can I finish?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I believe that's where this goes next. So once we make this action, it's going to go right to the town attorney. Then it's out of our hands. It becomes between him and the town manager, and then if there's a decision that needs to be made by this commission on some sort of action on a property, that will come back to us. But as far as the legal part of it, we're done. We're out of it, I believe.
Correct.
Commissioner Camillo.
The lots that aren't complete yet,
Mm-hmm.
who owns those? Well,
Griswold Farms, which is
well-
Michael Massimino.
The banks own them. There's a few mortgages on
He has
each one,
mortgages on them.
Right, as defaulted on
I
those
couldn't tell
two.
you it's all listed in the town
So the
clerk's.
bank is part of your association then? 'cause
No,
they're
the bank has
owners.
nothing to do with my association.
But they own the property in your association,
Okay.
right? So
They own his lots,
have
the
you
homeowners.
contacted them at all? Because
No.
their property is in that right of way with the roads and all of that. They may
No.
have a little more leverage too to make him move and get things done also, contacting them.
Commissioner,
Mr. Chairman, I think we would have a lot of our questions answered if we would just get legal counsel here next meeting and so that we could see what the best option
we're
to
going to do
take.
that, Mr. Payne. We're going to have the town attorney here, the town engineer is going to be here. Who else do you want?
Wetlands?
In the wetlands, the chairman, asked the chairman of the Wetlands Commission to be here too. And I'll entertain a motion to pull the bond.
Make a motion to pull the bond.
Second.
Motion made. and
Well, there's a
seconded.
motion.
There's a motion
There's
in the
in
packet.
the folder.
You want it, you want to read it?
We need to change the wording, though. It's
Okay.
town of
Here it is.
Newington, not TPC's intent.
Here we go.
Well, you have to.
Hold on.
Want somebody to read it?
I got it,
It's got it.
I gotta make sure I write it right, so everyone doesn't yell at me.
You ready?
Can I have it back? Use of performance bond funds, Newington Ridge Reserve, 119 Deming Street, Griswold Farms LLC owner. I move to notify Griswold Farms LLC of the town of Newington's intent to complete the improvement shown on the site development plan for 119 Deming Street, which plan is entitled Deming Street Active Adult Community Number 119 Deming Street, Newington, Connecticut, prepared for Deming Street Associates December 5th, 2008. Approved by TPZ on November 18th, 2009 as amended. This notice is in accordance with paragraph 4 of the performance bond agreement executed by Griswold Farms LLC on March 26, 2015.
I'll second that.
Second.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any questions or comments from the commissioners? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It's a unanimous decision of the TPZ to start the procedure, pull in the bond. We'll have the town attorney and the other parties here at the next meeting. I suggest that you be here too.
Definitely, but I had to have one question now, so I think I'm a little confused. Did you do anything different tonight that you did in March?
Yeah, we.
Of 2018?
We're pulling the bond.
Oh, that's, okay, I couldn't tell from the wording if that's what it was. Okay, thank you.
Planner, what did we just do?
Right. The commission may have reaffirmed a statement that it made previously, but what it just did tonight was it voted to notify the developer that it's the town's intent to complete the project.
Oh, thank you, okay. I wasn't quite sure.
It's under the wording of use of performance bond funds. That started the action, that's the point
Right.
of
Now, there's a whole bunch of other
There's
stuff
all
that
this
has
other-
to happen from this point on, legal stuff that we will not be involved with. It'll be between the town attorney and the
Manager.
staff.
Okay,
And,
thank you, and we will be here at the next meeting.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to give an update, do you want to give a rundown of what happened at this meeting to the town attorney, the Wetlands Commission chairman, and the town engineer?
Right.
And we're going to get this resolved. You're welcome. Okay. Old business. Petition 0319. You want to read that?
Hold on one second. Old business. Old business. A, petition 03-19 zoning text amendment, section 3.11, section 3.17, and section 6.11, motor vehicle service uses, town plan and zoning commission applicant.
Mr. Chairman?
No, I don't, because I recommended that the commission do a straw poll as to how the commissioners feel about the 100-foot buffer versus 50, because if a majority of the commissioners think 50 feet is sufficient, then we need to start over.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to recuse myself for the reasons stated earlier, but I would object that I noticed that there was a lot of input from the planner on different buffers in the regulations, so if there's a conversation about buffers, I would object of not being part of that. Thank you.
Didn't want to be a part.
We're going to discuss I believe that information was background information for Commissioner Woods. I don't know if it's pertinent to, what do you think?
Well, it's all information from the regulations. There was nothing new or nothing that only I had privy to, so I don't think it's a procedural error for me to give the commissioners excerpts from the zoning regulations. That's just my opinion.
Okay, I'm going to take a straw poll as to what distance requirements you want. Commissioner Fox. I need to know from you if you want to go to 50 feet or 100 feet for the distance requirements. You want to pass and let Stanley start?
No, I'd like to go to 100 feet.
Commissioner Sobieski.
100 feet, please.
Commissioner Woods.
50.
Mr. Anthony.
50.
50.
And I'm going to go to 100 feet. So it's, what is it now?
100, okay, so, well, okay, the amendment that was,
Hang on.
The-
Hang on a second.
the amendment, I'm sorry, you're talking to me.
The Mr. Braverman is sitting in for Mr. Payne, so you have a vote also, sir. and I'm sorry that
That's okay.
You're so quiet.
I'm so quiet.
yeah,
Try not to be disturbing. 100 feet, please.
okay, so that ends the problem. So we have 4.
Okay, well, one more little one, the garage door issue. Same thing with the garage door issue.
Mr. Fox, garage doors, the garage doors facing the street?
A prohibition or no prohibition?
No prohibition.
No prohibition.
You're saying, go ahead. Mr. Wood?
No prohibition.
Explain the prohibition to what?
Okay. The amendment, as published, prohibits new garage doors from facing the street. If the commission ends up adopting a regulation that allows garage doors to face the street, an argument could be made that the residents of Newington should have known that that's what the commission was going to do, because that's less protection for them. And if that's what the commission ends up going with, there's a procedural error that the public wasn't told. The argument can be made that the public wasn't warned that the commission might adopt a regulation that's more favorable, that allows garage doors facing the street. And
Have to rehear it.
it has been, yes.
My only concern with that, if you don't allow the public who has come before us, then you're Xing them out, even though the business owners and residents of town have a right to know when things change. So saying that if you change it now and you don't notify them that there's a procedural change, then to me, you're not following the proper procedure.
Right, and what he's
That's what he's
saying,
saying, so if we
Well,
do
that's-
this,
So
we're
when you
gonna
say
start
no,
over.
when you say no probate,
All it means is we start the process over.
you want to start the process
Yes.
over. We use a different word than that then?
Yeah.
Start the process over for the garage doors.
Prohibition.
no prohibition. Okay, so let's, that's enough for this subject. Go ahead, put it back on, put it back out, go to CROG, whatever you have to do.
I already sent it to CROG, so we could actually start the hearing at the next meeting.
Okay, will you, any questions on that for the commissioners? We're going to start it all over. We're going to start next meeting.
Fine with me?
Okay, and the reason for that is for the garage doors, you're allowing them to be facing the street.
Text amendment calls for prohibition, right? As it was written.
Yes.
The way it's written, it calls for it to be.
Prohibited.
They can't face the street. You guys are saying you don't, you allow them to face the street.
Yes.
But as far as the distance requirements, we're going to 100 feet.
Right.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah,
But those are two separate distances. You have a distance for the first thing you asked us to call, and now you have under 2, there's a whole other, that door roll-up is a specific distance also.
no,
No, it goes back.
what are you talking about?
Is there still a roll-up distance? Wasn't there not a distance versus roll-up separately as we
No,
march this down?
no, the 100 feet distance is between the distance between a residence zone and
So-
a auto use.
So in this memorandum, number 2, is it is number 2, 2 items in one, Mr. Minor?
Yes.
Then there's a problem with what we just answered then. What are we answering? Are we answering the distance, or are we answering the roll-up door? 'Cause
You've done both. The first one was on the distance.
Combine the two,
with that,
then the second bullet.
with you combining it, you have 2 separate things you're asking us to answer in one question.
But you already did.
We just did,
Right.
Anthony, I asked you.
Specific to the door.
No, I asked the question, do you want the distance requiring 50 feet or 100 feet? The commission
That
wants
was for the
100 feet.
buffer.
Now I asked, do you want the door, to allow the door to face the street or not? And you've all agreed to allow them to face the street.
It should
That
be a
was the vote.
period here. All right, so
I
this
don't
is, this
understand.
is,
Yeah, I don't
this is
understand what
really
you're
one
saying.
question, okay? This is still unresolved, okay? The roll-up doors. We all said we want no prohibition. This is talking about the buffer, 50 or 100 feet. It's two separate questions, is what he's trying to say there. The chairman just asked us, two separate questions.
Do you see it that way, Commissioner Woods? Because I don't. I don't see that memorandum splitting the two. And I think that's a big item to be split. Because there's a big difference between a buffer for a developer and a roll-up door for a developer. I mean, I don't mean that
You're right,
any.
there is.
And you guys are just like carte blanche, like, let it go. I don't think an attorney will see it that way. There's two specifically separate things within your memorandum.
And I got to vote for
Yeah, we
two
can
different
put them
things. No?
I'm struggling.
Didn't we just vote on two separate items, one for the buffer, one for the garage door? Didn't you give me an understanding as to the desire of this
But is
commission?
that both the buffers? Because your buffer will fall within those setbacks.
What does the buffer have to do with the garage doors facing the street or not?
Exactly. That's why I'm trying to figure it out, why you have them wrapped in one.
Oh, because those were okay. They're in one paragraph in my memo because those are the two issues, which have nothing to do with each other, but those are the two issues that we've been warned, if we don't follow with what was published, it's a procedural error. Both of them would be a procedural error if the commission ends up adopting something that's not consistent with what was originally.
So both of these would then become
Either of them.
no prohibition.
Either of them would be a procedural error if the commission went differently from what was published originally. And what the commission decided is that you're going to stay with the 100-foot buffer, so that's good as far as not creating more trouble for the commission. But the commissioners, on the other hand, decided that it does not want to invoke a prohibition on roll-up doors, and because of that, we need to rehear the whole amendment.
But there was a consensus here of 100 feet, which doesn't, no, that's the original, 100 foot's the original.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, you all set on that,
Yes,
Anthony?
sir. Sorry to disrupt everybody.
All right, Anthony.
Okay.
Well, it's,
Okay, so we're going to start it over again. Read petition 1519, Anthony, please.
The draft motion petition for old, the new, I'm sorry, yep. B, petition 15-19, special permit, section 3.15.3, restaurant outside seating at 2391 Berlin Turnpike, Artichoke Basilis Pizza, JGF Holding Company, owner Matt Rusconi, 195 West Main Street, number 16, Avon, Connecticut, applicant contact. May I ask
Okay.
one thing?
Do you have,
Get him back, he has to come on.
okay. Mr. Payne is sitting back in for himself on this item. On this, do we have a motion prepared already?
It was in the folder.
Okay, does it have the conditions?
I forgot to mention the one condition that I'd suggested, that you only allow 3 seats for now. So if whoever reads the motion, maybe would add that as a condition.
3 seats or 3 tables?
Oh, I'm sorry, 3 tables.
Is there can I ask
Why did we do that?
I'm just suggesting it. If the commission is concerned that 5 tables with 4 seats each would result in a lot of additional parking, start with just 3 tables. And if there's no problem with those 3, after 90 days, let the applicant come back and ask for permission for the 4th and 5th table. I'm just throwing it out as an option.
No, I don't think that's necessary. I think if we're talking 5 tables, we're talking 20 people, and the difference is not significant.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
For safety reasons, though, I would be concerned to make sure that we have bollards to protect the public, and it should be incorporated with the fencing that they go with, and it should be matching. In other words, if they got a black fence going up, they should put black bollards with some landscaping.
Well, it shows landscaping on the plan,
Okay.
Dominic.
Okay. That didn't show anything to protect the residents, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I wrote that, ballards around seating area to accommodate safety.
Okay, you want to read the...
Petition 15-19, special permit, section 3.15.3, restaurant outdoor seating, 2391 Berlin Turnpike, Artichoke Basili's Pizza, JGF Holding Company, owner Matt Rusconi, 195 West Main Street, number 16, Avon, Connecticut, applicant contact. Excuse me. I move to approve with conditions petition 15-19, special permit, section 3.15.3, restaurant outside seating at 2391 Berlin Turnpike, Artichoke Basili's Pizza, JGF Holding Company, owner Matt Rusconi, 195 West Main Street, number 16, Avon, Connecticut, applicant contact. Conditions: 1, ballards around seating area to accommodate safety.
Second.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any comments from the commissioners? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, let's go into the next portion, which is 1619.
Petition 16-19, site plan modification at 2391 Berlin Turnpike, Artichoke Basili's Pizza, JGF Holding Company, owner Matt Rusconi, 195 West Main Street, number 16, Avon, Connecticut, applicant contact.
Okay. This is for the pass-through between the two.
No, it's the same one, but now it's site plan modification.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. It's confusing.
So wait,
So what is this?
If you look on the monitor, here's an excerpt from the revised site plan showing where the seating will be.
Okay, so let's,
Is this,
I need a motion.
is this for the driveway?
No, this is not the driveway. This is more to do with the seating.
So the first one was just to allow the seating, and this one is now modifying the site plan.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Or we like to make
I get it now. Yep.
Okay, you
Full
got a
employment
motion?
for us.
Why don't you
any
read the mo-
conditions? Anyone have any
I don't
conditions?
have any.
No. We covered the conditions under the seating portion.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I move to approve petition 16-19, site plan modification at 2391 Berlin Turnpike, Artichoke Basili's Pizza, JGF Holding Company, owner Matt Rusconi, 195 West Main Street, number 16, Avon, Connecticut, applicant contact. No conditions.
Second.
Motion made and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, read 1619, which, now this is the pass-through.
No, that was 1619. 1719 is the pass-through.
Which is not, is an add to this?
Yeah, okay, read 1719. It's on the front,
The beginning, yeah.
item A.
Yes. Petition 17-19, site plan modification at 262 Brockett Street, JFG Holding Company LLC, owner applicant John Formato, 798 Southington Road, Berlin, Connecticut. Contact.
Okay. This is for the pass-through.
Right, and there's a condition.
What is the
Did I?
condition?
Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry.
it's in the, it's with the other two trap motions.
That's the one right here. The plan shall be revised to remove the obstructed parking space adjacent to the relocated dumpster pad?
Yes,
All right, so you want that read in?
yes,
Take
yes, okay, thank you.
Everyone's clear, this motion is to either approve.
The pass-through.
We'll have a roll call.
Yeah, no,
vote.
I got you. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. Petition 17-19, I move to approve with conditions petition 17-19, site plan modification at 262 Brockett Street, JFG Holding Company LLC, owner applicant John Formato, 798 Southington Road, Berlin, Connecticut, contact. Conditions: 1, the plan shall be revised to remove the obstructed parking space adjacent to the relocated dumpster pad.
We'll take a roll call vote. I'm not going to be.
Is there a
voting.
second?
Yeah, is there a second? Second, okay. We'll take a roll call vote. I will vote last. I'm not in favor of this approval of this.
Commissioner Payne?
No.
Commissioner Fox?
Nay.
Commissioner Woods,
Yes.
Commissioner Sobiewski,
Yes.
Commissioner Claffey,
Nay.
Commissioner Camillo,
Yes.
Chairman votes no. And the vote?
4-3 opposed.
Next item on the old business is item B, 1819 Fen Road. We're gonna talk about splitting this. Have a motion?
No.
Okay.
This was
Get a
just
motion
for
on
the-
the table, and then we could discuss it. We're gonna do the seating portion or not do the seating portion at this time. The consideration of the parking is not part of the motion because we're waiting for engineering results before we even take that up. So if someone would like to try to put together a motion,
I could do it. Put a motion, petition 18-19, site plan modification at 80 Fen Road, 80 Fen LLC, owner Montana Knights applicant Merle McKenzie, 80 Fen Road, Newington, Connecticut, contact. I move to approve the outdoor seating portion of the application, petition 18-19, to just include the new exterior seating barn-looking structure made out of wood with seats and ballards, which is separate from the pending parking part of this application.
Second.
motion made second. I think you gotta make a condition that they put the ballards.
the,
What, are there any other
The
conditions?
condition was the ballards to match in color on the parking lot side in front of the parking spaces that abut the new barnyard structure.
Mr. Payne, any other items?
Condition 2, that he must come back for the parking within 90 days.
I'd like to come back in 2 weeks.
That's up to you
That's-
and your
that's okay.
engineer.
Well, I'm gonna fire off some heated text tomorrow morning, and I think Joe's gonna light because he wants that parking as bad as I do. I think he's gonna light a fire under the engineer that I can't.
Okay.
Can I suggest instead of come back in 90 days, that the site plan shall be approved by the commission within 90 days?
That's fine, that's acceptable to me, yep.
I don't know what that means. I'm here in 2
You've
weeks.
got 90
Oh.
days, you've got 90 days to do it, but if you can do it in 2 weeks,
Do it
you do it in
faster.
2 weeks.
But how do I get on the zoning boards?
You're already on the
Oh,
schedule.
good. Just come in 2 weeks, and then
Yep.
I can give you an update.
Hey,
Hey,
we got a motion made. Was there a
Need a
second?
second?
I'll second it.
Motion made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, you could do your outside seating.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Make
Much
sure you put the
appreciated.
ballards in front.
Been fun. Thank you.
Okay, that ends the old business portion. Town planners report.
I have nothing new?
Communications.
I've been sending you whatever I get from CROG,
Okay.
amongst everybody's been getting them.
Public participation, Gail, anything? No. Remarks by commissioners. Commissioner Payne.
Yeah, since the town engineer is going to be at our next meeting, do you think we could have, Mr. Chairman, could we have a report from him concerning the library parking area? It appears that there's a drainage problem between the library and the residents, and I think it's important for us to make sure that the residents of Hart Street are protected, so I'd like to get an update on that for our next meeting. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Wood.
Can we also get, excuse me, can we also get an update on any of the pending legal issues that are in front of this board?
I didn't hear what you said,
Last.
Steve.
You all had received an email from planner minor that I had submitted to him yesterday, discussing some signage and the allocation of time. You all got the email. It wasn't specific to any business in town. It's just something I feel we need to look into on the use of signage. But please review the email. If you have any questions, feel free to address them to Mr. Minor or myself. If you want to meet somewhere and discuss it, so that in hopes that in the future meetings come, we can discuss it in more detail. I thought we'd have a little more time tonight, but I'm okay with, we got bigger pressing issues, but I would like to discuss this next meeting a little more in
Put it on the
depth.
agenda.
So if you could put it on the agenda, but in the meantime, if anybody wants to, and it won't be a meeting, but just to
Talking about
discuss it.
signs inside the.
It's the signage portion, which I'm discussing, is we approve sign in town for a building, and then seems they put the sign up, but then every piece of glass that's on the storefront and around, everywhere around town, it's not just one specific area, seems to just load it up with more signage. And I just wanted to get everyone's opinion on thoughts, processes of how, because we've combated the sign and temporary sign issues very well. I've seen improvement from our CEO, but I'd like to see if there's some other ways we can kind of tighten up the reins on some things that are just getting out of control. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, any other commissioner comments or remarks? Anything you want to bring up? Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Saved you. Good one for the team tonight, boys. Man.